भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Okay, so we are in the 12th chapter. Oh, what was the 12th chapter finished?
Yes, Mataji. It's 13. We need to start, I think, 13.5.
Oh, okay. Sorry. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings, especially in the Vedanta Sutra, and is presented with all reasoning as to the cause and effect. Purport. The Supreme Personality. Have I made you co-host? I did not. Yeah. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings, especially in the Vedanta Sutra, and is presented with all reasoning as to the cause and effect. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining this most controversial point regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul and supersoul by referring to scriptures, the Vedanta, which are accepted as authority. First, he says, this is according to different sages. As far as the sages are concerned, besides himself, Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra, is a great sage. And in the Vedanta Sutra, duality is perfectly explained. And Vyasadeva's father Parashara was also a great sage, and he writes in his books of religiosity, Aham Tvam Cha Atanye. We, you, I, and various other living entities are all transcendental, although in material bodies. Now we have fallen into the ways of the three modes of material nature according to our different karma. As such, some are on higher levels and some are in the lower nature. The higher and lower natures exist due to ignorance and are being manifested in an infinite number of living entities. But the super soul, which is infallible, is uncontaminated by the three qualities of nature and is transcendental. Similarly, in the original Vedas, a distinction between the soul, the super soul, and the body is made, especially in Katha Upanishad. So here we are, you must have read about the field, knower of the field, and all that, right? Prakriti, nature, the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the end of knowledge. So these are the questions that Arjuna asked. So, what is this knowledge? Knowledge is given by the sages in Vedanta Sutra. Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru words to establish truth. So Krishna is telling here, explaining what is nature, that is, what is material nature, what is the soul, what is the super soul. And a very nice way of seeing it, I mean, this is actually the truth. We, because of attachment to the body, we don't see it like that. But the body is considered to be a field. And a field, that means it's non-living. And the jiva is the knower of the field. I mean, knower means he is conscious. He is the knower of the field. And then the person who's controlling both is Krishna. So this only is knowledge. Kshetrajna. So Kshetra is the field, and Kshetrajna, one who knows the Kshetra, is the living entity. And there is an other Kshetrajna in the body, and that is the Paramatma. He also knows. I mean, he only knows. We also know. So here, so the Krishna is the highest authority. So he is explaining. he is explaining this most controversial point. Why? Because some people think that there is only Atma. Atma becomes Paramatma. And during liberation, what happens? This Atma merges with the Brahman. And so they think that whatever divinity you feel in your heart is actually the Atma. So that is why they say, I myself am Narayana. So that is the controversy. Whereas Vaishnavas say, no, there is dual. There are two Kshetrajñas, the Atma and the Paramatma. So Krishna is quoting Sadhu Shastra and Guru to establish. This is how we have to. He's taking from the scriptures, Vedanta, and then he's quoting the sadhus to establish this truth. There is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's energy known as Annamaya, by which one depends simply upon food for existence. This is a materialistic realization of the Supreme. Then there is Pranamaya. This means that after realizing the Supreme Absolute Truth in food stuff, one can realize the Absolute Truth in the living symptoms or life forms. In Jnanamaya, the living symptom develops to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Then there is Brahman realization and the realization called Vijnanamaya, by which the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. The next and supreme stage is Anandamaya, realization of the all blissful nature. Thus, there are 5 stages of Brahman realization, which is called Brahma Pucham. Out of these 3, Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Jnanamaya involve the fields of activities of the living entities. Transcendental to all these fields of activities is the Supreme Lord, who is called Anandamaya. In the Vedanta Sutra, also the Supreme is called Anandamayu Abhyasat. The Supreme Personality of God is my nature full of joy. And to enjoy his transcendental bliss, he expands into Vijnanamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, and Annamaya. In this field of activities, the living entity is considered to be the enjoyer, and different from him is the Anandamaya. That means that if the living entity decides to enjoy in dovetailing himself with the Anandamaya, then he becomes perfect. This is the real picture of the Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field, the living entity, a subordinate knower, and the nature of field of activities. So actually, it is very simple, but because of ignorance, people mistake. So we know that everything has come from Krishna, the whole universe, all material things. Um, Sarvam Kalva idam Brahma. That means everything in this universe is Brahman, because it's all come from Krishna. So material and spiritual energies is all Brahman because it's coming from Krishna. And so when we are born, when the living entity takes birth, then first, how does he experience this Brahman? He experiences it in the form of food. Anna, the baby, this is the first stage. When everything, food, because the food is the source of existence. So the child, you see, he will always, anything you give, anything he touches, he wants to put in the mouth and experience. So that is the first stage. And also you see in this level of evolution also, those living entities which are not so evolved, they are only eating. Like you have the jellyfish and all, they don't, they just stay in one place and keep on eating. So that is the first level of Brahman realization, where you simply experience Brahman through eating. Annamaya, by which one depends simply upon food for existence. This is the materialistic realization of the Supreme, because matter is also Krishna, and we are experiencing him in matter and just eating. And the next stage is Pranamaya. Then that means we are realizing the absolute truth in food stuff, and can realize the absolute truth in the living symptoms or life forms. That means a Pranamaya is that stage where people are working hard to maintain themselves. So there is a lot of activity, work. That is Pranamaya. Then one can, in the living symptoms of life or life forms. In Jnanamaya, the living symptom develops to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. So this is when you can get knowledge. Actually, there's one more Manomaya, but it's not on the mental platform. But probably Manomaya and Jnanamaya are together. So when thinking, feeling, and willing, the difference between Pranamaya and Jnanamaya is Pranamaya is simply activity. And that even animals are active, living beings also active just to maintain themselves. Then Jnanamaya is you're using your mind, intelligence, and all that. So thinking, feeling, and willing. Then there is Vijnanamaya, where you actually realize that you are a soul. Jnana Maya, you can understand even theoretically that you are not the body or the soul. But Vijnana Maya is when you actually understand that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. So then that time, so the first three stages, you're still realizing only the material aspects of Brahman. And in Vijnana Maya, for the first time, you're realizing that I'm, the spiritual aspects of Brahman, that I'm a soul. And Vijnanam, Anandamaya is when you become a devotee and you connect with Krishna, then you become very blissful because he is blissful. Anandamayo Abhyasat. So he's always full of happiness. And so then in the Vedanta Sutra also, the Supreme is called Anandamayo Abhyasat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is nature full of joy. And he expands into Vijnanamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, and Annamaya. So everything is him, everything has come from him only. So the spiritual aspects are him, and then the soul, Vijnanamaya, and material aspects are the Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, and Annamaya. So, but what happens is in this field of activities, the living entity is considered to be the enjoyer, and different from him is the Anandamaya. So until he surrenders to Krishna in the Anandamaya Abhyasat, when he surrenders to Krishna, he becomes happy. But until that surrender happens, he thinks he is the enjoyer. So in this thing also, whatever he's experiencing, Brahman and all that, it's the center is himself. He thinks I'm only enjoying. I'm eating and I'm getting this thing. I'm acting and I'm doing so many things and I'm the enjoyer. I have knowledge, so I'm only the enjoyer with the knowledge. And then even in Vijnanamaya, he thinks I am Aham Brahmasmi and only I am the center. But only when he comes to the point of Anandamaya, when he realizes there is Krishna and he surrenders, then that time what he is including, like he knows that he is only the secondary enjoyer. He has to include Krishna also in his enjoyment. Actually, he is the enjoyer, and I, by cooperating with him, I also enjoy. If the living entity decides to enjoy in dovetailing himself with the Anandamaya, then he becomes perfect. This is the real picture of the Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field. The living entity is the subordinate knower and the nature of the field of activities. So we are subordinate. That is what the other Gyanis and all, they don't want to accept it. They want to act as if we are the only knowers. They don't want to accept that the Lord is, they don't want to subordinate themselves. That's the thing. But in this chapter, it's clearly established the nature, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. Okay, so the three aspects of ourselves. So if you say our body, it consists of so many things. Body refers, Atma means it refers to the soul, it refers to the body, it refers to the mind, it refers to the intelligence because of the different types of identification. That's why. Actually, Atma in its purest form, it is spirit. But now, because we identify ourselves not as a soul, but as body. So then when you say, Atma also refers to all of them. They're all mixed up now. But then here he is clearly explaining how the body is, what is this body, is clearly explaining. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktam evacha indriyani dashaikam cha pancachendriya gochara ichha dveshah sukam dukkam Sanghatas chetana dhriti etat chetram samasena savikaram udahritam. Yes, Purvi, you wanted to say something or chat?
No, Mataji.
Okay. So, the 5 great elements. What are the 5 great elements? Earth, water, air, fire, and ether. Okay, that, then the false ego, these are the subtle elements. False ego, which is part of us. Sorry. False ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So we have the kshetra is the field, and what is the field of activities in the kshetra? All these things. From all the okay, illusion things. Okay, here in the points, Taittiriya Upanishad of the Yajurveda speaks of 5 realizations of the absolute truth by the soul within the body. Annamaya in illusion thinks he is the enjoyer. Pranamaya in illusion thinks he is enjoyer. Jnanamaya in illusion thinks he is enjoyer. Vijnanamaya realizes he is soul. Anandamaya realizes he is servant of the supremely blissful Lord. Different from the field of activities, that is the Lord. Living entity is perfect when dovetailing and enjoying with Anandamaya. Preeti, can you go to, Preeti Mataji, can you go to the next one? Next slide. So here, field of activity. So this field of activity composed of 24 elements, which I just read out. 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, mind, 5 sense objects. So then desire, hatred, happiness, distress, aggregate life, the aggregate, the life symptoms, convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. Then, from all the authoritative statements of the great sages, the Vedic hymns, and the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra, the components of this world are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the 5 great elements, Mahabhuta, because the universe is also made up of these Panchabhuta, Mahabhuta. Everything in this entire universe, gross elements are these 5 things. And then there are false ego, intelligence, and unmanifested stage of the 3 modes of nature. Then there are 5 senses for acquiring knowledge: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch. Then 5 working senses: voice, legs, hands, the anus, and genitals. And then, therefore, then above the senses, there is the mind, which is within and which can be called the sense within. Therefore, including the mind, there are 11 senses altogether. Then there are 5 objects of the senses: smell, taste, warmth, touch, and sound. Now, the aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity. If one makes an analytical study of these 24 subjects, then he can very well understand the field of activity. Then there is desire, hatred, pleasure, and pain, which are interactions, representations of the 5 great elements in the gross body. The living symptoms presented by consciousness and conviction are the manifestation of the subtle body, mind, ego, and intelligence. These subtle elements are included within the field of activities. The 5 great elements are a gross representation of the subtle false ego. They are a representation in the material conception. Consciousness is represented by intelligence, of which the unmanifested stage is the 3 modes of material nature. The unmanifested 3 modes of material nature is called pradhana. One who desires to know the 24 elements in detail, along with their interactions, should study the philosophy in more detail. In Bhagavad Gita, a summary only is given. The body is the representation of all these factors. And there are changes of the body which are 6 in number. The body is born, it grows, it stays, it produces byproducts, then begins to decay, and the last stage it vanishes. Therefore, the field is non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field, its proprietor is different. So, interactions of the field of activities. So, we saw what are the, first of all, we saw what are the parts, of this field. What is it made up of? So, we have the 5 gross elements. Our body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. How we know that we have heat in the body? So that is fire. We have all juices within the body. Blood itself is a, liquid, and all so many juices in the stomach and all that. So that is water. And earth is the body itself, because it when the dead body, you keep it in the earth, it decomposes and becomes earth again. So it is made up of earth, water, fire, then air, inside the body. I mean, we are breathing, so air is certainly there, and ether, space. So these are the 5 gross elements that this body is made up of, and also the universe, everything. But here they are saying, okay, activities and field of activity. Here we are talking about the body, kshetra. So first 5 are the gross elements, and then the 5 organs. 5 organs, knowledge gathering of organs. What are those? Eyes, nose, because all the knowledge about this world, I mean, the sight, and then how it smells, and how it sounds, how it tastes, how it feels, all this, those are the knowledge gathering senses. And then the active senses, which actually do work, and which are the hands, the legs, the voice, right? And then genitals and anus. So those are the other 5 active senses. So together, these are 10. So 10 plus 5, 15. Then we have also the what do you call that? Subtle senses, and that is the mind, because the mind is also a sense, but it is within mind. And then intelligence, it says, is the symptom of consciousness, of the soul, of consciousness. Because we are conscious, we have intelligence. So mind, intelligence, and false ego. False ego is what makes us identify with the body. So that is also, one of the subtle senses at work. So these 3. So together, how many? 23 now. And then the soul, which is actually with a contaminated consciousness. So these are the 24 elements of material nature. And then he's saying that we have the field of activities are, so interactions of the gross body produce what? Desire. So certain things you like it. No, you desire nice, fragrant things, beautiful things, and soft things. All this it creates desire in us. And hatred is for things which causes us pain, right? It's something which is hard or pokey and giving us pain. So those we hate. So pleasure and pain, happiness, distress, all these are experienced as we are acting on the bodily platform, field of activity, and the aggregate, the sum total of all this. And interactions of the subtle body, that means produce living symptoms of consciousness and convictions, right? That is intelligence, mind, and false ego. So through that, we we know that we are conscious, and all our convictions, it's all through the subtle body, not on the gross. So that so these are the 24 elements. One who desires to know the 24 elements in detail, along with their interactions, should study the philosophy. Sankhya philosophy you can read, but it's not required. Enough to understand this. The body is the representation of all these factors, and there are changes of the body, which are 6 in number. The body is born, it grows, it stays, it produces byproducts, it begins to decay, and at the last stage, it vanishes. Therefore, the field is non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetra Jnana, knower of the field, its proprietor is different. And also it says unmanifested, and the among the 24 this thing, they also say the other false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested. The unmanifested means you cannot see it in a gross form, and that is the 3 modes of material nature in when it's not in the beginning, in the form of pradhana. In the beginning, what happens when Mahavishnu is lying down in the universe, and then this pradhana is there, the total material energy. And when the Lord glances, that is when this manifestation happens. The 3 modes are manifested, and then this whole material world is created. I mean, he glances at the material energy, which is the Durga, and Shiva and Durga combine, and then these 3 modes are manifested. So that unmanifested material 3 modes is also there. So all this are the field of activities in this material world. So this is the field of activities and its interactions.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I didn't understand what you just now said, Mataji. Can you please repeat?
Okay. So there is something called Radhana or material energy, because Mahavishnu is lying from here. From him comes the spiritual energy, which is the jivas, and also the material energy. So the material energy in the form of Durga, she is the pradhana. It's called pradhana, and it is unmanifested stage. That means the 3 modes are there, but it's not manifested. It is unmanifested. That means it's in a subtle form. So then the Lord glances at that pradhana, that is Durga, and then she combines with Rudra or Shiva, and then what happens? It becomes manifested. That means you can actually see it in the gross form. And that is why the whole universe is made up of 3 modes of material nature. You take anything, any object in this material world is made up of 3 modes. Either they are more of goodness, a little less of passion and ignorance, or more of ignorance, passion. So it's a big combination. So everything in this material world is made up of the 3 modes. So that is when it's manifest. So in the unmanifested stage, the material universe is in the form of pradhana. So that is what he's saying. Okay?
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we go to 8 and 9, 8 to 12. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsak shantir arjavam acharyopasanam shaucham dhairyam atma vinigraha indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam asaktir anabhishvangha putradhara grihadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopappattisu मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतत् ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यद् अतोऽन्यथा. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, and self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, non-attachment to non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, resorting to solitary places, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. So, process to obtain knowledge to transcend the field of activity. So that is what are the things from the most important of those qualities. Okay, let's read what Prabhupada says about it. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. So it's not a process of the senses, but it is a process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the tenfold elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 10th verse. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if but if one takes to devotional service and full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. So either you go step by step, the goal is Krishna, or you directly take Krishna, then all other lower steps are included in that. You will get it automatically developed within him. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 7th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it's most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. So, so he is taking one by one all the points and explaining. So, this only is knowledge. Process to obtain knowledge to transcend this field of activity. Opposite of that keeps us in bondage. Okay, so most important of these qualities is approaching a spiritual master, devotional service to the Lord. Other qualities developed through these two processes. Humility of being subordinate to God required to get this knowledge. So very important. That's the most important. Okay, this process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by no. So as for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor pertaining to the body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it's found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following the religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. So the humility means first in the mode of passion, identifying with the body means we want respect. That's why the whole world is working so hard. No, they're not working just to maintain themselves, get a house and all that. That is okay. You can get they more than enough, but still they are trying for more and more and more because they want honor, to be the best. I'm the richest person, or I'm the whatever, the best in my city, or the best in my even family, or whatever. People want honor. That is why. So that's why he's saying that it is a deception. One should not be hankering. Okay, because people become so obsessed with it that they suppose they fail in something. Oh, they think, what's the use of living? They feel so horrible to meet anyone or to even live. So that is what it's a deception. And consequently, sometimes, and at the cost of everything, they do anything. They give up their values, they tell lies, they cheat just to maintain the status so that people will honor me. So that is what it's too lopsided. One enters into some, and so also for religion, people start following religion also just for respect. Where I belong to, I follow these people. And then you think, oh, they'll respect me because of that. And without finding out even whether they are genuine or not. But Prabhupada is saying you have to test how much you are progressing by these items. First, non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. So emotionally also, that is even worse. You might say that I'm not going to hit you, I will not kill you, nothing. But with my tongue, I will just tell you horrible things. So you feel that is even worse, right? So non-violence. So even if you're you should not put others into distress also. So like that, they say the tongue is sharper than a sword, right? That is because you can kill a person with your words. So that is also violence. One should not think, I never hit, I only spoke. That's also violence. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence. So this is the topmost vision of seeing. That real violence can be anything in the highest way. I mean, you're very sensitive. Then you think, oh my God, this person is suffering because of ignorance. And I wish I can put an end. But if I don't do it, then I'll think I'm really violent. I'll let that person harm himself in some way, or be miserable because of lack of knowledge. They do nonsense. So we should try to elevate people to spiritual knowledge so that they will not suffer. Tolerance means that one should be practiced. Okay. Then tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there'll be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlada, who only 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge and was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlada tolerated him. So, for making advancement in spiritual knowledge, there may be many impediments, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. So, this is very important for us because we know that we get upset if somebody says something or just insults us and all that. And especially, he says that you have to be tolerant especially when you're trying to progress in Krishna consciousness, because we are living in, people. We are this is like a demon crazy Prabhupada. I mean, a demonic education completely based on material value. So they don't want any kind of reminder about Krishna consciousness or spiritual. They feel guilty, right? If somebody, you want to enjoy your life and you're drunk and then you just want to sleep and enjoy, and then you hear in your neighbor's house, ting, 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 bell, and reciting of all shlokas and all, you'll get so annoyed. Oh, then you feel guilty. What am I doing? I am supposed to be doing that also. So you want to stop the other person also. Don't remind me of all those things. So then that person will feel bad. No, what did I do? I didn't do. I'm just quietly praying to God. But that is how we have to tolerate. Hiranyakashipu, why did he have to try to kill Prahlad? He was so calm and peaceful. But that's let's just do one more quality.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Mataji. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Mataji, can I ask one doubt here?
Yeah, sure.
Mataji, actually, Prabhupada said many times, wherever we are valued, we have to go there and we have to be there, right, Mataji? Then how can we take these things and we have to balance our own value and spiritual life? Can you please guide us, Mataji?
You mean wherever we are valued? Yes, of course, we try that. But then that is for companionship or friendship and all that. Association. We go there. But then it's for preaching. This is for preaching. Then you have to associate, no? Or you are forced to work. And at the place of work, not everyone may appreciate what you're doing. Some people may criticize and say, oh, you think you're very religious, is it? Why do you want to show off? Or something, anything they may say. So you can't avoid it, no? Somewhere you will meet some opposition, even if you avoid, you're living in this world, somebody on the street also may pass some remark like that.
Mataji, last class you have explained about more endeavor, Mataji. I have one doubt there, but actually I couldn't ask. That time I was outside, Mataji. Can I ask now about that, please?
Yeah, okay.
Mataji, you told that making much endeavor is against Krishna, right, Mataji?
Over endeavor, yes.
Yeah, over endeavor. Oh, sorry, thank you. Over endeavor. But Mataji, sometimes we used to take and we used to promote our ISKCON videos in Facebooks, different WhatsApps, different groups. Is that we are making much endeavor, Mataji? More endeavor?
No. You have to endeavor. Only over endeavor is. Suppose, of course, in Krishna consciousness also, we are doing according to Krishna's desires. So, suppose something goes totally against, you're not at all succeeding in that thing, then you leave it thinking that, okay, maybe Krishna doesn't want. Like Prabhupada, he saw a nice building in Kolkata and he wanted to, he said, let us bid for it. They were selling it. So everybody, they were asked for tenders and ISKCON also gave one quotation and which was quite low, but I know, whatever, according to the something, ISKCON had given a quote and they were quite hopeful of getting it. And then, one life member, he was coming to ISKCON and all that, and devotees thought that he's quite he will work in ISKCON's behalf. So they shared with him how much they had quoted, how much they had bid for. So this person, he went and cleverly put just a little below ISKCON's thing, and he bid for it, and he took it, that building. Imagine. Just, I don't know why they had to tell him. But this is why you have to be very careful. So in advance, they told him, and so ISKCON lost that building. And Prabhupada had wanted it very much. But then, he said, okay, no problem. Maybe Krishna doesn't want that. Well, he was okay. So like that, and not as another person who materialistic, or a attached person might keep trying, he might go and tell them, no. He might have endeavored more to get the same building or been agitated and then go meet a politician and then you go meet whoever this thing and you give him some bribe, please don't give him, take mine, like that. That is over endeavor. You tried your best and it doesn't work, you leave it.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. It is so balancing, Mataji. It's very balancing. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So any other questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
No,
So-
Mataji, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Sini. Mataji.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, Mataji.
Yes. You wanted to say something?
No, Mataji.
You said yes or no?
No, Mataji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna, Mataji.
Okay. Then we will chant a few times Hare Krishna mantra. And then we'll stop. 18.
Yes, Mataji.
Sri Krishna
Shri Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu
Chaitanya Prabhu
Nityananda Shri
Nityananda
Advaita
Shri
Gadadhara
Advaita
Shivasadi
Shivasadi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda
Vrinda
Sri
Shri
Krishna
Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda Shri
Shri
Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shivasadi
Shivasadi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda
Vrinda
Shri
Sri
Krishna
Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Prabhu
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shivasadi
Shivasadi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda
Vrinda
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Hare Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Hare Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama Rama
Rama
Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama Hare
Rama Hare
Rama Rama
Rama
Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
Rama
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
Rama
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Rama Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Hare Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Hare Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama Hare
Rama
Rama
Rama Hare
Rama Rama Hare
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 Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna Krishna
Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Hare Krishna
Hare
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 Krishna
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 Hare
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 Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Rama
Rama
Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Rama Hare
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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
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 Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna
Hare
Mataji.
Hello.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I saw some of you joining. Some of you are joining for chanting. So please do join everyone and see how it feels. Okay. Morning. And so, chanting. Okay. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Granth Raj ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhye vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. And the Gaudiya Vaishnava ki jai.